the time we got to the first green. Nowadays, with all the waterproof shoes, everybody is dry. But people buy a $70 pair of cheaper golf shoes instead of paying another $70 for something waterproof.
Hello there, and welcome to this
Even
first
if
hole
it's not
par
raining
4.
the day you play,
Let's have a good time out
it might
there.
have rained the day before. Do you want to step in a soft puddle on the first hole and have a waterlogged sock and shoe for the next 4 hours? Just spend the extra money. Speaking of money, the last of my most underrated golf essentials is the cheapest by far. It is the banana. It comes in its own easy opening wrapper. It travels extremely well, including in a golf bag, unless you forget it is there. Its yellow color matches well with the green, or brown, of every golf course. Golfers worry about how to replenish themselves on the golf course and spend way too much money on pre-wrapped sandwiches and expensive energy bars. A simple banana has fiber and ample quantities of vitamins B and C and loads of potassium, which helps restock electrolytes. That's why you see so many tour pros eating bananas on the course. It's an easy, quick refueling stop. Underrated? You bet. A ripe banana in the bag might be worth a stroke per 9 holes. One other thing a banana won't do: it won't stain your shirt, pants, or skirt if you accidentally drop it.
Beach
that
to
can't
beach,
be said for
not
a hot
the
dog
happiest
with
of
mustard.
times.
And that's no myth. Debunking myths and falsehoods is fun. It will make golf essentially easier, but remember, this is still golf. No other sport will test you in the same way. Sam Snead and Ted Williams were once discussing what was harder, hitting a golf ball or a baseball. Snead acknowledged the golf ball wasn't moving, but added, "You don't have to go up in the stands and play your foul balls. I do." Think
Nice way
about
to
that
start
for a
things
while.
out with a par.
If it helps, remember, we're never alone.
Coming off a
Golf
par on the
mistreats
last
us
one. Let's see what
equally in
happens
the
here.
end. It also lifts us up. The ultimate essential remains the understanding that this odd, unique game we play demands a singular skill at finding the silver lining and moving forward to the next shot. This coming from a golfer who wrapped a pitching wedge around a tree while just practicing. But distorting golf's often brutal reality is a golf essential. I am certain that during one of the earliest golf matches in the 15th century, along the Firth of Forth in eastern Scotland, a beleaguered sheepherder missed a 3-foot putt when his rounded stone lipped out of a rabbit hole. He considered flinging his stick in the direction of the North Sea, but instead reminded himself that he was getting better at this new game. He would improve if he just practiced a little more diligently. And besides, that rabbit hole was irregular and too small for such a good putt anyway. Then, as the other sheepherders trudged away, he slammed his stick into the little bag he was carrying on his shoulder.
Okay, 1 under for the round.
Chapter 2.
Okay, here we go.
If you think it's hard to meet new people, try picking up the wrong golf ball. Jack Lemmon. There are all kinds of hazards, little hidden tricks and deceptions in the game of golf that go unheeded by unsuspecting golfers. We golfers tend to dress nicely, smile at the appropriate times, and mind our manners. So naturally, we expect fairness and decency from golf in return. Ha! We are fools. This is golf. Golf flouts righteousness. Here are just a few examples. Many tee boxes do not point toward the fairway, so many tee shots do not go there either. Everyone thinks these are routine errant shots, when in fact, we probably have just been duped, too naive to think the golf course itself is conspiring against us. Most people have the wrong loft on their putter. You probably didn't even know a putter had loft. But your trusty putter may be working against you. Golf suspends simple math skills In other words, people cheat. The sand in bunkers, as organic and untreated a material as there is rarely
Great
even-handed.
contact.
The sand can be thicker and heavier in some bunkers than it is in other bunkers.
Right back on the
So
fairway.
what was a
See
beautiful
about hitting that
par-saving
green
swing
up
in a
there.
bunker on the first hole becomes a triple bogey disaster swing in the bunker on the fourth hole. Even the sand in different parts of the same bunker can vary. Meanwhile, a small army of scientists and engineers holed away in an unnoticed New Jersey bunker. Not the sand kind. Actually govern golf, and don't you dare cross them. But more than anything else, lording over all pertinent things in golf, there is the rules of golf, the most complex, shadowy, and abstruse document known to this world or probably any other. In fact, if big-brained aliens ever land on Earth and ask for a book that explains how we administer society, we ought to hand them the 138-page Rules of Golf, because it would so consume and distract them, we would
Okay,
have
20
plenty of
feet
time to
to
steal
the
all their
cup.
technological secrets and make off with their futuristic weapons. The rules of golf can overpower any brain. Notice, of course, that I capitalize the R in rules, because that's what official rules gurus do. This is true. Why? Because the golf rule book refers to the rules as capital R rules. And the highly serious people who shepherd the rules at the United States Golf Association, and someone must, do everything exactly as the rule book states. For example, those are not sand traps on your local golf course. They are most decidedly bunkers. It's not a pin propped in the hole on the first green, it's a flagstick. It is not the tee box, but the
Okay,
teeing
now
ground.
with that,
This is true because
you're gonna
these are
stay at
3 of
even
50
par.
defined terms
So,
in the
yeah, not
rules of
too
golf,
bad.
and they are always used by rules officials and never substituted with other inappropriate slang golf terms. Once, I got an inebriated rules official to utter the words sand trap and tee box by bribing him with a free beer. The next morning, he shamefully turned in his rules badge. Actually, that's not true. Well, the second part of the story isn't true. Some other common golf terms that are
Well,
not
I guess
in
you
the
can't hit all the
rules,
fairways.
even if they are part of the universal vernacular of America's 28 million golfers.
Pretty deep
Puddle.
rough here.
Don't be
not going to
silly.
sugarcoat it.
That little collection of rain where your ball ended up is casual water. You often get relief from casual water. Snow or natural ice, incidentally, can also be called casual water. But manufactured ice is an obstruction. Different rule. That's right. If Mother Nature has made the ice your ball ends up in, you're in good shape. But if you hit your ball into your mother's paper cup of scotch on the rocks, which is, of course, just down to the ice, you're checking into a completely different rule and resolution, not to mention having to buy
Solid
Mom
swing.
another drink. And don't embarrass yourself trying to call dew and frost on the golf course casual water. No rule, no relief, don't
And
even
we're
go
back
there.
on the fairway. Let's see about hitting
Dirt.
that green now.
If it has a line drawn around it, it is ground under repair. That's good for you because you can probably move the ball. No line? Sorry, bad news. Don't bother looking around beseechingly at your golfing partners when this happens. We know you got jobbed, but what can we do? It's the rules, with a capital R. Cup. It's a hole, and the white thing inside it is the lining. I have no idea how many beers it would take
And
to get a
with
rules
that,
official to
you
use the word
will stay
cup.
at even par.
It would be so many you probably wouldn't be able to understand what was said anyway.
And from the
Snake.
5th hole tee off.
As in, my ball came to rest on a dead snake, so I'm not hitting it. Actually, the snake, if dead, is an outside agency, and you must play the ball off it. If the snake were alive, you could drop another ball safely away from the snake. Bad luck, stupid game, really unfair. All common terms that might be spoken or screamed if your ball was bouncing down the center of the fairway until it hit a rock or a squirrel and deflected into the woods. This is upsetting because that's where you must play your next stroke from. The rules have a definition for this outcome. It's officially recognized as the rub of the green. In other words, stop your whining. Besides, your casual water tears are messing up the teeing ground as I am at the flagstick above the hole several feet from a bunker. Anyway, when it comes to the rules, I have found that all golfers are separated into 3 categories. The happy clueless. These are golfers who know almost no rules and have no interest in learning them. These are also known as tennis players, fraternity brothers using golf as an excuse to get drunk, and people at a convention playing their 1 round of golf a year. The happy and mostly uneducated.
Doesn't look like it's on the fairway, but it's all
These
right.
are golfers who know some rules, but not all of them. And they think trying to learn all of them is pointless because the rules are too convoluted. They have learned some simple edicts and now want to be left alone. These golfers make up 85% of the golfing public. The happy prosecutors. These are golfers who know all the rules and almost all of the hundreds of decisions handed down over hundreds of years to penalize and persecute the rest of us. These people are known as
Great
the golf
contact.
rules
Nice
Nazis.
swing.
They are as popular as most Nazis. The truth is, there is no hope for categories 1 and 3,
1 under
but
for the
much
round.
hope for those in the middle. For the happy and mostly uneducated, there are about 10 basic, relatively
6th
easy
hole
rules
coming
that
up.
everyone should know and understand. They are also the most abused. So, 10 essential rules to remember, with painless translations. Be one with your ball. Before you start your round, you must be able to identify the ball you are playing. When 2 or 3 people hit into the same cluster of trees off the first tee,
This
you are
one's
not
looking
supposed to say,
good.
I think I hit a top flight or a Titleist or a tower something. It definitely began with a T. This is not nitpicking, especially for beginners who spray the ball just a bit. If you don't know what ball you hit, trust me, it will happen that you and one of your playing partners will drive a ball from the tee into roughly the same place. And when you get there, neither of you will know what ball you played, or if you both know the brand but not the number of the ball you played, it is an unlucky certainty that you'll find both balls. Same brand, probably Titleist. But you will never know whose ball is whose, because you don't know the number. By the way, not that I advise doing this on a crowded muni on a Sunday afternoon, but by the rules, both of you would have to declare your ball lost and return to the tee to hit what would now be your 3rd shot. So at the least,
Well, you
know
got an
what
ugly
brand
lie,
of
but
ball
we're
you're
pretty
playing
close to the
and
green.
the
Let's
number.
keep going here.
If you want to be safer, mark your ball with a pen or a Sharpie to identify it. Avoid drawing a smiley face. It tends to mock you from a terrible lie in the rough. Bag check. If you want to carry 16 clubs in your bag because you're trying out 2 putters and an extra driver, at least know that you are violating the rule that permits just 14 clubs. You probably mean no harm, and there's always room for experimenting, but your playing partners may want to get a little side bet going, and they could have an opinion about your extra baggage. Now, you may see this as ridiculous. You can't hit the 14 clubs you already have straight, so why would 2 more uncooperative clubs matter?
Well, we're in the rough,
But
but
other
we're close to the
golfers will
green,
perceive
so
it as an
we'll be
advantage
putting
because
pretty
they,
soon, I think.
in their own golfer delusional way, might like to carry 16 clubs, believing that today is the day they will successfully hit a 2-iron. So remember, 14 clubs is the limit. As simple as that is, guys get penalized on the pro tours for this all the time. In 2001, at the British Open, the diminutive Welshman Ian Woosman was near the lead,
Sitting
heading
at
into the
1
final
over for the round.
when his caddy forgot to take out an extra driver Woosman had been experimenting with on the practice range.
Coming off the dreaded double
When Woosman
bogey on
discovered
that
he had
last
15
hole.
clubs on the second tee,
Let's see if we can start
he
fresh
called the
here.
2-stroke penalty
Get
on
something
himself.
better.
Woosman's nickname is Wee Woozy, And boy, was he ever on that second tee. While he finished 3 strokes behind the winner, the tournament might have had a different outcome had Wee Woozy been 2 strokes closer throughout the final round, putting pressure on the leader. This is a good rule, an elementary way to make sure everyone has the same tools, although it is a truth that most of us would probably do better with 10 clubs.
You can't
Less
hit all the
thinking
fairways.
that way. Teeing off. You can tee your ball at or just behind the imaginary line drawn between the front of the tee markers, but you don't have to. This, in fact, is usually where you'll find the most divots and inadequate grass. You can tee your ball up to 2 club lengths back from the markers, while staying behind them. You won't miss the extra 3 feet, but you might get a flatter, smoother lie. Tee boxes, the teeing ground, is notoriously bumpy and uneven, especially in certain climates and at municipal courses where the budget probably isn't big enough to pay for frequent rolling of the tees. There is level ground, but you should look for it instead of just sticking a tee in the middle of the markers. More important,
Solid swing.
make sure your feet will be level, and level with the ball. Many a slice occurs because the ball is subtly below your feet, even if it's only half an inch. As for the tee markers pointing you the wrong way, make sure you don't fall for this trick. Golf architects design their layouts to protect par. Often the design of the entire hole is to lure the golfer to hit it right on a dogleg left or toward a particularly punitive bunker complex. To maximize the number of balls rolling or flying in that direction, the architect might build the tee box so that the long sides of its rectangular shape create an alley that points directly toward the trouble. This is exceedingly common and exceedingly overlooked.
All right, we're
Don't
on the first
use the
cut
markers
here.
to
Let's
take
just
aim.
pop this on the green.
They are not there to help you. And there's another reason to ignore those markers. At many golf courses, the tee markers might be moved every other day so that the grass can be mowed. Who do you think puts those tee markers back in place after the mowing? At some very select courses, it might be a maintenance worker trained to look where he's jabbing the tee markers in the ground, so that they are aligned to create an aiming corridor pointing toward the fairway or green. At most courses, it's just somebody who
And
at
that'll keep
5:30 in
you
the
at
morning
1
couldn't care
over for
less
the
where
round.
your shot ends up. He's just in a hurry to get 18 tee boxes mowed by 6:30.
Coming off a par on the last one. Let's see what happens
Out
here.
of bounds options. If you hit your ball out of bounds, you must hit another ball from the same spot as the original shot, or as near to it as possible. If on the tee, you can re-tee. Out-of-bounds areas are defined by white stakes. There is a 1-stroke penalty. If you are not sure if your shot went out, announce that you are hitting a provisional ball. You must declare it. If you find the original shot in bounds, great. If not, play the provisional. The out-of-bounds rule may be the most controversial, commonly applied rule in golf. Many people think it should be changed because it slows play, puts pressure on people to go back to the tee, and is overly punitive. As TV golf commentator and teacher Peter Costas points out, you are penalized less for whiffing the ball on the tee,
You are
1-stroke
very
penalty,
deep in the rough
but
here.
at
Gonna
least
have to be
you're
careful
hitting
about
2,
this one.
than you are for hitting it off the tee and out of play. Back to the tee and hitting 3, or you hit a provisional and you still lie 3. Costas and others suggest that out-of-bounds areas should be treated like lateral water hazards. More on that rule later. But, essentially, if you hit it out of bounds, you would instead drop 2 club lengths from the point where the ball went out of bounds, with a 1-stroke penalty. You would still be hitting 3, but you've gained the distance of your errant shot. Many recreational golfers already play out-of-bounds shots this way. And if you and your friends
that
want
was
to
a swing.
substitute your own interpretation of the lost ball rule for a day, week, year, or lifetime, that's perfectly
37-footer
fine.
here. Let's see what you can do.
Just know what the rule actually is, because you won't be playing every round with your friends, or you might end up in a friendly, or not friendly, competition. Remember, Rules Nazis are lurking out there. The safest way to proceed in these conditions? Hit a provisional, unless you positively see the ball. I'm just trying to protect you. It may not be the fairest rule, but it is an easy one to understand and recall. Lose a ball? See out of bounds. If you hit a ball and think it's lost, the rule is the same as for a ball hit out of bounds. If you didn't see where it went, or if it looked as if it was heading for the cemetery across the highway, accept the likely mortality of your shot. Hit a
Coming off
provisional.
a par on the
You are
last
allowed
one. Let's see
5
what
minutes
happens
to
here.
look for the first ball. This is another controversial and oft-ignored rule, sometimes with good reason. You can leave the tee all but certain your tee shot is just over a hump in the right rough. It's so obvious where it is that you don't hit a provisional. Everyone in your group saw where it went and assured you it should be okay. But unbeknownst to your group, wild fescue is growing just beyond the hump. Again, if playing a competition or in a league, you must head back to the tee. If it's a hot day, likely the pace of play is really slow. And even more likely, there's another group waiting on the tee. At that point, I'm not sure it's even safe to go back to the tee and whack another one, so there will be a lot of pressure to just drop a ball and take a stroke. This has led some people to lobby that this rule be changed, just like the out-of-bounds rule. The problem is that unlike the out-of-bounds situation where you probably saw the OB ahead of time, and probably saw the ball fly or roll toward that area, so you can estimate its general location, a lost ball can occur in a multitude of ways. Some completely unexplainable. Lost balls are just that. Lost.
Well,
In
looks
many
like
cases,
this may be in the
no
deep
one
stuff.
saw where the ball went, so no one can accurately say where it was last seen or where it should be placed. What if no one ever saw it off the club? Or lost the ball in the sun or a cloud? Where do you drop the ball then? Losing your ball definitely costs you a stroke. One of the most fundamental tenets of playing golf: try not to lose your ball. And of course, hit a provisional if you have any doubt where it is. Divining water hazards. If you hit a ball into a water hazard, typically defined by yellow stakes, you can always try playing it out of the hazard, which could work if you don't mind playing the rest of the day with mud
going
in
after
your hair.
9. Not amazing,
Otherwise,
but
you
not
have
bad.
two options. The now
Let's give
familiar
her a
play it from
smash
the
here.
spot of the previous shot option, or, and pay attention, because this is the most misunderstood rule in golf. You can drop a ball behind the water hazard, but you must keep the point where the original ball last crossed the margin of the hazard between you and the hole. What does this mean? Look at the flagstick and draw an imaginary line from it to the point where your ball last crossed the margin of the hazard. Now, visualize that line going backwards for hundreds of yards. You can drop your ball anywhere on that line. Be imaginative where you drop on the line, because sometimes going back 100 yards is to your advantage. Sometimes going back 40 feet gives you a flatter surface to hit from. This happens at the Masters on the par 5, 15th hole every year. A steep hill precedes the pond in front of the green, and it is a much more precipitous slope than the television cameras reveal. Golfers who dunk their balls in that pond tend to go back anywhere from 50 to 100 yards, both to set up a familiar shot and to get some reasonably level ground. So don't let the frustration of plunking your ball in the water lead you to another mistake. And don't just go up and drop a ball a few feet behind the water.
Okay, so we have about
That's not the rule.
115 yards,
Find the appropriate line.
thereabouts, to the pin.
Now, in some cases, usually par 3s, a clearly marked drop area is identified or circled in white paint. This is usually your best choice, if there is one. And if you walk around the pond or hazard and drop on the other side of the water, the side closer to the green, you must believe in the tooth fairy. I do see people do this all the time, and I wonder, Under what circumstances would a game as difficult as golf give you a free pass like that? Of course, the rules
Good
are
stuff.
most likely going to make you hit it over the water again. More water. With a twist. If you hit a ball into a lateral water hazard, which is a pond, lake, swamp, or ocean, where it is deemed impractical to drop behind the hazard, you have all the same options. You will know it is a lateral water hazard if it is defined by red stakes. As mentioned earlier, the rules also allow players to choose one of two other options. The one used most frequently, after taking a one-stroke penalty, is dropping the
Okay, we're
ball
about
within
17
2 club
feet out
lengths
here.
of the point where it last crossed the margin of the hazard. No nearer the hole. You can also drop a ball on a point on the opposite margin of the water hazard, equidistant from the hole. Accept the hand you are dealt. All right, enough of the water hazards. It's depressing just talking about them. Here is a rule so elementary, so clear and easily understood, so unambiguous and so easy to comply with, that you would think it would never be broken except by accident. Yet it might be the most broken rule of all.
Okay, let's
And
see what
not
you can
often
do with his
by
8-footer.
accident. It's the ball, played as it lies rule. It is Rule 13, just to make it sound more ominous. So that means don't roll the ball over to better grass. Don't jostle it with your club to get it sitting up on top of the grass instead of buried in it. You can't improve your lie or stance at all.
Okay, let's see what you can do
Ever.
with his 8-footer.
You can't do what my cousin Jerry used to do. Me. Got a good lie over there, Jerry? Jerry, as he repeatedly pressed his club head against his ball in the rough. Not yet. It is best to get used to the concept that golf is basically a game in which you hit the ball, find it, and hit it again. There are exceptions,
Sitting
but it
at
means
4
reading the
over
rulebook
for the
carefully.
round.
Few exceptions deal with shots in plain view resting on the fairway or rough.
Hole number 11.
Once you get used to playing the ball as it lies, you will rarely think about it, even if you get a bad break. Others will respect you for it. There does seem to be a good karma that envelops those who embrace this approach to the game. If you take your medicine, things will be fine. Like, for example, those odd instances when your ball comes to rest in an old divot. Maybe it's because I'm concentrating more on hitting the ball first. Not a bad idea. But those shots always seem to turn out okay. Not necessarily
swing.
perfect, but not worth getting your shorts in an angry knot about, which really hurts your hip turn anyway. Thinking of clearing a path? Don't bust that stupid twig. All of us at one time or another get into a position in which the removal of one little tree limb or sprig of a bush would give us a clear shot at the green. Guess what? You cannot break off that twig or bend that sprig. You cannot even break it by accident with a practice swing. Nice try, though. This may also seem unfair. Why be
Nice.
penalized for breaking a twig if it was an accident? Because the rules cannot be sure it was by accident. 2 or 3 hearty, aggressive practice swings with the club cutting the brush like a scythe can turn a deadly lie in tall grass to an agreeable one. If your opponent did that, you would want the rules to prevent it. Leave the counseling to the caddies. This is the last and largely unknown rule that everyone should know. It is against the rules to give advice on the golf course unless you are a caddy or a partner in a match. That means you are allowed to tell that know-it-all
Okay,
in your
so
group to stop
that'll
breaking
keep
the
you at
rules with all
4
the swing
over for the
tips,
round.
sand shot advice, and putting grip instruction.
All right,
See?
let's let her rip.
And you thought the rules only penalized you. They could be on your side after all. Now, as much as I've been making fun of the rules officials, all golfers should know they are very real people. It's likely that some of them probably even wait in line next to you at the grocery store, and you are completely unaware. All golfers should understand how helpful the men and women watching over our golf rules can be, Not just to officiate your local tournament or club championship, but to settle arguments. While it is true that many golfers have a sketchy understanding of the rules, it does not stop most of them from getting into rules arguments on a daily
Okay, we are
basis all
very
over the
deep in the
country.
rough here. Be careful with
In
this one.
prime golf season, I get 5 emails a week from readers wanting me to settle rules situations that arose recently in their group. That is always good fun. Since I am not an actual rules official, I tell them whatever comes into my mind that day. I've tried telling them that the penalty for hitting it out of bounds is to hop on one foot while patting the top of your head and singing Dixie. I don't know if anyone out there has actually believed me, but if someday while playing golf you hear someone warbling Dixie while hopping on one foot, you will know that person reads the New York Times.
Okay, you are in the rough, and just so you know,
But back
you are
to the
deep down
real
in the rough.
rules officials. On any given weekend in America, there might be a rules argument for every birdie made. Wait a minute. The average score of the average golfer is still 100. Obviously, there are way more arguments than birdies. When these arguments reach a certain fevered pitch, someone usually asks an elder on the scene whom everyone recognizes as somewhat of a rules guru. But that elder is going to render an opinion that contradicts one side of the argument, and that will leave someone still feeling wronged. If that party is sufficiently aggrieved, or 19th hole lubricated, then a call or email will be placed to the United States Golf Association headquarters
Great
in Far
contact.
Hills, New
Nice
Jersey.
swing.
People call the USGA because since 1894, the organization has governed a national championship, and shortly thereafter it
29 feet
devised,
from the hole.
interpreted, and oversaw the rules of golf as played in the United States. The first golf rules, or the first written golf rules, were jotted down by the Gentlemen Golfers of Leith of Scotland in 1744. This group is now called the Honourable Company of Edinburgh Golfers. There were essentially 13 rules, establishing things like what to do if your ball lands in water or is lost. Pretty much the same rules as now. Believe it or not, the Gentlemen Golfers of Leith also addressed what to do if your ball strikes a horse or a dog. It must be played as it lies.
10-footer here. This is makeable.
The rule persists, if not the Old English spelling. In 1897, the Royal and Ancient Golf Club,
Decent
R&A,
putt
of
there
St.
for
Andrews,
bogey.
Scotland, took over the role of watching over golf's
5
rules east
over
of the
for the
Atlantic
round.
Ocean. For decades, the rules of golf were slightly different on each side of the Atlantic.
Okay,
The
it's
ball
time to
size
send
was
this ball on
different,
its
for
way.
example, and at various times you could use a steel-shafted club in the United States, but not in Britain. The same was true when it came to a center-shafted putter or certain kinds of wedges. In 1952, the USGA and the R&A came to agreement on almost all the rules. The ball size remained different for nearly another 3 decades.
Is it
These
gonna have
rules
enough?
are now officially recognized for almost all competitive play, and so, more than 100 years after the
Almost on the
founding
green
of the
here.
USGA,
Let's get out
when
of this
average
rough and
American
start
golfers are stumped by something about the rules, or how to apply them, they phone up the USGA. And these phone calls are not a random occurrence. Rules officials at the USGA answer 20,000 rules queries every year. The USGA offices are not open on weekends, but late on Sunday afternoons, especially during summer, the telephone at the main switchboard rings nonetheless.
And that'll
It will
keep
be
you at
3
5
guys on a
over for the
speakerphone
round.
from the 19th hole at some club. According to Ginger Failson,
Coming
the
off a
USGA
par
director
on the
of
last
rules
one.
education.
Let's see what happens here.
They have a golf rules question and they want an answer. The security guard who answers these calls is trained to ascertain if the outcome of a live tournament or club championship is at stake. Questions that can wait a day will be directed to a USGA Rules Associates voicemail. But if there is some bona fide competitive event involved, the guard has cell phone numbers for the rules officials. Failson said, "He will get in touch with us, and we will call back and make a ruling." So somewhere at one of the roughly 16,000 golf courses in America, Some golfer who did or did not mark a ball properly, or did not move a bunker rake
Looks like you're going to
improperly,
hit some sand
will
here.
be penalized or exonerated. A scorecard will be accepted or adjusted. Another golf day in America will end with a specific tally of a specific number of strokes, all thanks to a USGA rules official who probably stepped away from a Sunday barbecue to offer an expert decision. If this sounds unusual or excessive, then you have no grasp of just how obsessed golfers can be with the rules of golf, or how necessary they are in managing the game, and you certainly haven't sat at the desk of a USGA rules
Well, at least
associate.
you're out of the sand. For the
Monday
bird.
through Friday, 40 hours a week, it is the full-time job of a rules associate to answer the phone calls, email messages, and mailings of everyday golfers who are perplexed or confounded by some element of the rules. They come in year-round, but we are busiest from late May to September, Failson said. When we leave on a Friday, it's not unusual for the rules email inbox to be empty. When we come back Monday morning, there are several hundred questions in there. In most other sports, be it beer league softball or youth soccer, there is an umpire, referee, or official presiding over the action to make decisions and enforce rulings. In golf, 99%
Okay,
of the
so
time,
that'll keep
the
you
players
at
are on
5
their own,
over for the
trying
round.
to figure out what the appropriate ruling should be. And clearly, many
Guys,
people
send this
have never
ball
seen
away.
a golf rule book. Most people have never read it, and those who have aren't likely to have committed it to memory. We do try to make the rules as simple as possible, but we're dealing with a game played across thousands of acres, with so many outside factors like weather and wildlife, said Bernie Lohr, USGA manager for the rules of golf. There are a lot of situations that can happen, and so many possibilities to consider. For example, because I love questions about golf and
Nice.
animals,
Should be in the fairway.
what if a golf ball hit near but not in a water hazard lodges beneath the shell of a turtle, and the turtle then dives into the water hazard with the ball? You are allowed to drop a ball as near as possible to where the turtle was when the ball struck it. No penalty. What if the ball got lodged in the turtle's shell while the turtle was floating in the pond? Proceed as if you hit your ball into a hazard. 1 penalty stroke. What if the ball lodges in the turtle's shell outside the pond, but the turtle is dead? We know this answer. You may either play it as it lies without penalty, or declare your ball unplayable, taking 1 penalty stroke. Most of the questions forwarded to the USGA receive a response in 10 to 15 business days, which takes some doing when the queries are arriving by the thousands. There are 2 full-time rules associates, in addition to Lohr and Failson, and 9 regional directors who may answer up to 40 questions a month. Other USGA staff members occasionally pitch in to help as well. And yes, while most questions take the rules associates just 30 seconds to answer, some rules situations can temporarily stump the USGA officials. In that case, the rules gurus gather in the office hall.
Hope this bites.
The group may take a vote on what the ruling is, and if something similar comes up again and
Nice.
again,
Ended up just
the
fine
officials
after that shot.
may ask
You've
the
got
rules of
21
golf
feet to
committee
the
to make a
cup from
decision.
here.
That's the fascinating thing about the rules of golf, Failson said. They're kind of like the game of golf. You can never completely master it. I wondered if at social gatherings or parties, being a rules official is like being a doctor. Everyone has a question. People will invariably say, "I got one for you," said Lohr, who joined the USGA when he retired as a comptroller in 2004. And they give you a rules situation. It's okay. I like the rules. What's the most common question? You guessed it. Lost ball or out of bounds clearance.
And that'll keep you at
And the
5
staff
over
at the
for the
USGA,
round.
like me, is astounded by the number of people who think they can drop their ball on the
Okay,
green
here
side
we
of a
go.
hazard when the ball they hit did not carry the hazard. Then, there are the knuckleheads. I can call them that because I think I'm part of the group, who wonder about crazy, wacky possibilities. You know, what if my drive collides with a low-flying aircraft? Or what if everyone sees my ball roll into the hole, but when we get there, we can't find it? When the conversation begins with, what if? We know that what follows may not be reasonable, lore said. Sometimes you have to ask, guys, did this really happen? To help educate the golfing public, the USGA website, www.usga.org, has a vast listing of frequently asked
Looking good
questions
so
pertaining
far?
to each of the 34 primary rules. There are rules videos and quizzes as well, because the USGA wants golfers
Right
to embrace the
around
rules, not be
230
puzzled by them.
yards to go here.
But in the end, when there's a difference of opinion about golf procedure or about which rule applies to a thorny situation, the phone will ring at the USGA headquarters. Sometimes you'll give them the ruling, and over the speakerphone you'll hear people cheering in the background, lore said. Someone will say, "Thanks, Bernie. We owe you a beer." I've never collected, but I'm probably
Solid
owed a lot
swing.
of beers all over the country. Why we cheat. And guess who's watching? There is another reason the rules exist. It's to identify when someone is cheating. Although many times I don't think we need a rule book to do that. But this is another unseen part of the game. How unseen? In a recent online poll of more than 7,000 golfers, 70% said they cheated on the course. 95% said they were not caught, or at least no one said anything. A 2002 survey of 400 top business executives reported that 82% admitted to cheating at golf. Around the same time, PGA Tour caddies were
Okay,
questioned
so
about
that'll
cheating,
keep
and
you at
26%
5
said
over
they had
for the
seen
round.
players cheat on tour. Wow! What a bunch of cheaters!
All right, let's let her rip.
Well, let's be real. On the recreational level, some of this is probably the mathematics ruse that people like to pull occasionally. What did Will Rogers say? Income tax has made liars out of more people than golf has. So, just as they might with their taxes, people can get a little forgetful. I don't know if it's the smell of freshly cut grass or the proximity of pond water, but something about the golf course disrupts people's grade school arithmetic. Calculating the number of strokes taken on a hole, which would be easy work for a 6-year-old, becomes vexing to golfers. Maybe it's the golf cart fumes. But after many a tough hole, an 8 or a 7 gets marked down as a 6. There are much more inventive ways to cheat on the golf course. Some of them are mildly amusing. There's the old reliable foot wedge. Your toe moves a ball a few feet to a better lie. There's the bait and switch. Hit a rock-hard distance ball off the tee, then switch to a soft premium ball to putt with on the green. Some people seem to magically find wayward balls that were presumed lost by all who saw the shot. I have heard of golfers who rip holes in their
And that'll
pockets
keep
so
you
they
at
can
5
surreptitiously
over for
drop
the
a ball
round.
through the pant leg onto the ground. Voila! Here it
Okay,
is.
it's
I
time to
found
send
it.
this ball on its way.
It's possible people do these things because they come to golf with experience playing other sports where cheating is all but sanctioned on some level. In soccer or ice hockey, players pretend to be fouled to influence a referee's call. Baseball catchers try to pull wayward pitches back toward the strike zone, hoping to get a strike call from the umpire. Basketball players are taught to use their bodies to shield opponents from the ball in ways that skirt the rules or blur them. Football
It's quite
linemen
the smash there.
hold on almost every play. The list of ways that subtle or overt cheating takes place in sport is lengthy. These acts are placed in a gray area, something
Okay, looking
essentially
at,
not illegal.
I'd say 180 yards out.
In golf, such a gray area would exist only in a player's conscience, because unlike in nearly all other sports, the players call the violations on themselves. The standards set are very high. Not only can a player in a tournament be disqualified for cheating, his or her opponent can also be disqualified for witnessing it and not reporting it. But many golfers, probably not an insignificant number, find bending the rules
Great
totally harmless.
contact.
It's another unseen part of the game. I've had scores of people tell me that what they are doing is not cheating because they don't keep score anyway. Other people tell me they break a few rules because they play so infrequently, it's no fun if they don't help themselves occasionally. And I can see their point. I personally can think back to times as a younger player when a form of temporary insanity came over me on the golf course. An outcome on a given hole would seem so unfair and implausible. Ever hit the flagstick on the fly and had the ball ricochet into a water hazard? That I would refuse to write down my real score on the scorecard. Is that cheating?
All right,
Well,
13
it
footer
certainly
here.
wasn't truthful. And as I got older, I realized no golf hole was worth feeling dishonest. But there is another realm of golf cheating that deals with the things people do to win matches, or to be able to say they had the low score in that day's foursome, or worse, to win a club championship. People do a lot of not-so-harmless things in pursuit of those goals. Because golf is a game where an individual score is assigned to every player, there is intense pressure to be good at it,
Okay,
or at
11
least not
footer
bad
here.
at it,
This is definitely
said
makeable.
Dr. Wayne Glad, an Illinois clinical psychologist who has worked extensively with college and pro athletes, including golfers. In a business setting, people believe they won't
Nice
nail
putt.
down the big deal if they are a really terrible player out on the golf course. Plus,
Okay,
there's a
it's
sense
looking
that
like
everyone else
6
is
over